Hi, welcome and welcome back. Today, I want to talk about how we can leverage our intuition to make better decisions. And in doing that, I know it's helped me over the years to really think about this in a detached way where I'm looking at the system inside of us, how we go through the process of getting that insight and then having it process in the body so that we're able to actually move forward and do the things that we want and not be held back by resistance or fear. So I know all of you are intuitive. I know you've made decisions through intuition. There are times when those decisions are really easy for us to make because the intuition is very clear. And then there are other times when decisions are much more complex or they're life decisions that we want to make. Sometimes we have a little bit of trouble understanding and deciphering what is really intuition, what might be a fear, and how do we really sort through our feelings. So I wanted to draw out how I see this system working to maybe share some insight with ways in which I can process to like really make sure I'm always making decisions through intuition, still using my logical and critical analysis, but allowing that intuitive intelligence to come through. So I'm not only making right decisions, but I'm making accurate decisions that are in my best well-being, not to attach any sort of expectations to the outcomes, as well as allowing for more intuition to come in. I have faith, I have trust, and to really anchor and hold on to that, still through very practical ways, still through very logical ways, because I want to utilize every tool available and I want to make insightful decisions, knowing that every step I take, every action that I take forward, every action that I make, I'm going to gain more and more information. It's when we get information and we get stuck with it inside the body and we don't really know how to process the intuitive insights to make decisions and take action is where we get a little hung up or we start to doubt the intuition that comes in because we may have placed false expectations on it or just expectations in general and it needed to unfold a little bit more. So imagine that when you get an intuitive insight, it's this divine thought that comes through and it drops into the mind. It drops into your third eye. And so it sits there and it allows you to really kind of take shape. And so this is sort of that knowing, whether it's through a vision, whether it's just through a feeling and understanding, but there's usually that sort of insight that comes through. And we don't know where it comes from, but we know we have it, we know it comes through. And it's done in a way where you can feel the grace within it. Like we know intuition is this deep sense of knowing without having any evidence in front of us in the fact that this is something we should do. And so the insight drops in and it drops into the third eye. And here it sits in the mind. And so we have our left brain and we have our right brain, our left and right hemisphere. And we have the logical mind and we have our critical thinking and our critical mind and we have our imagination and we have our emotions that are attached to that imagination, how we feel about it, but this sense of how we tie in that like poetic emotion behind it. And these can also have a positive and negative side to each one, right? Our critic is sitting here as well as some fantasies and fears that can come up. But we have to process this. So as the insight comes in, it comes into the third eye. And so the logical mind and the imaginative mind get this little golden nugget that comes in and they want to just like go towards it. They want to kind of process it and decipher it and see what they're going to do with it. And so this is what starts to happen. We get this insight. Our imagination can go wild. We might even start thinking about how it's possible. And if we let it sit in here a little too long, we might have an inner critic that comes in and says things to help deter us. We might get overwhelmed with emotion and not know how to handle it. And so I'm going to draw a little human body here quickly. What we then have to do is process it. How are we thinking about it? How are we leveraging it? How are we speaking about it? It's the mouth. How do we feel about it? And then this is our belly button. This is our center, our sacral center. How do we have confidence within it so that we can actually, with our hands, move this through the body and build something with it? And so this is sort of the baseline. This is sort of where survival sits. This is where fear sits, and we'll get to that in a second. As we look at intuition, we really want to give it its place to know that this is something much bigger than us. We've allowed the space for it to drop in into the third eye. And we want to be able to give logical, rational thoughts to help execute it when it's needed. There are times that this intuition is going to come in and it's not going to make any logical sense because it just feels right. And there's a knowing that comes through the body. And so, what tends to happen is that we might get caught up in the logical mind because we've been told in society that this really is the driving force. The practicality, the productivity, the hard work, everything here. It has to be material met. It has to have evidence. We have to have facts behind it. And this sort of becomes woo-woo. Anything that we can't actually see with empirical evidence becomes something other, and we don't know how to handle it really in a professional, logical, like serious way. We know we have it, we talk about it, and it's becoming more evident that this is a superpower, but this is really insightful. This is you being driven by everything within you and your soul to help you move forward. And we need to understand when we're critical with ourselves, we have to be able to take this intuition as like, this is the highest level of intelligence that we have and give it its place and understand why we're being critical with ourselves, why we're being overly emotional, and ask for more guidance on how to continue to process this insight, maybe to give you whatever the next steps are so that we can move it through the body. Because if we don't, it gets stuck. It gets stuck in the body. We decide that this is the most important thing, and we put these thoughts into this sort of like jail. These little insights go in here and we lock them away, and they keep nagging at us and nagging at us. And we imagine the things, we're still over here imagining what we could do, but somehow we've made the logical mind the taskmaster, the one that's calling all the shots, and it's guarding and locking away that insight. But what we really want to do, we want to bring those insights into the world, and we want to be able to write that book or build that online business, right? Or decide to have that union that we want to have, or decide to invest in something that we want to do. And we want to bring this into the material world, which is why you got the insight in the first place and why you were able to get it. And so it doesn't really make any sense from that perspective of why you would ever hold that back. Over time, if we keep these ideas, if we keep these insights locked away, they keep nagging, they keep calling, and they're going to get resentful. They're going to get upset because you might see out in the world these things that other people have, and you might wonder, how come I don't have them? What am I not doing to get them? And it's really, well, might have been given the insight, but you've decided to lock it away because you decided that fear was more important, that the feeling of this feeling of safety, this illusion of safety, was more important down here than following the guidance up here. But what we want to have is a sense of groundedness, a sense of being centered and anchored. And how do we do that? Well, we do that because we understand that this is the most important thing, but we're still listening to every side. These are like the employees of the intuition. You have a meeting, you have discussion, but you're always leveraging the intuition to have these conversations. You're not going into these conversations with other parts of you and other parts of yourself alone. You're not talking to fear with your logical mind because you're going to stay in fear. You have to talk to your fear as if it were a 5-year-old child afraid of the dark. And you're bringing in your insight and your intuition as a way, like a loving parent, to nurture that fear, to help bring that fear to light, to help bring it out of the shadows, to understand how do we move towards these things that we want. We've been given the intuition, we've been given the knowing and the guidance. If we can take this model, what I'm hoping is that you can take this model and look at it from an objective perspective so that when the intuition comes in, and sometimes it's so beautiful and so wonderful, it just overwhelms us. That either way, however it gets caught up in this system, it doesn't get caught up in this system. We're aligned enough to move through and put it out in the world and be able to build the things that we want, enjoy the things that we want, have the relationships that we want, have the money that we want. And we want to build on that. And so, as creators, we want to take the wisdom and the insight, we want to take the tools that we have and the knowing that we have, and we want to be able to just knock through these conversations to a point where we don't have them as much anymore. And we're just in a flow. And the flow is that I get the insight and I move it through the body, out through my hands, out into the world. And any little hiccup or hesitation, because they happen, because we're human and we're going to have emotions, because that's just how life is, we know how to handle it. We know how to process it because this is our guiding light. This is our way in which we need to move through the world. And anytime you feel lost or you're not sure because the fear is louder, the survival mode is stronger, the critic is barking, you go back up to the intuition. How do I handle this? However that is, however you connect to your inner self, to that inner quality, and you start to really get back into that emotion and that insight of what it is that you got in the first place. What was driving you? What was the force driving you? And you can alchemize this fear into fuel. Doesn't really go away, can go, it can be quiet for a little bit, but you can also take your intuition and hold your fear's hand and tell it to trust you and to tell it to have faith because you're guiding yourself. You're leading yourself through the dark with this light. This is the light you're leading with, going through step by step, day by day, choice by choice, move by move, action by action, thought by thought. Every step of the way, you can have guidance and you do get guidance. It's allowing that guidance to help move you through so that you gain the confidence, which is in your sacral, no, which is in your solar. So you gain the confidence to keep building and keep building and keep creating the life that you want. So I just wanted to break this down in a little visual when we think about trying to make decisions in the world and how to leverage intuition. I know you have intuition. I know you know how to make decisions with intuition, but how do we expand on that and make that even more? And just kind of a fun little way to really think about these are just pieces of the mind that want to come at this insight. This is life changing. If you're able to change direction and really shift forward and break through and look fear right in the face and work towards it, your growth is exponential. This version of you that's sitting here no longer sits there anymore. You're becoming something else. You're becoming into another level, into a new layer, into a new expansion of who you are because you're developing yourself. Really, the integration is your light side, that positive, upbeat side of you, and then those darker parts of you. And not that the dark is bad, we have shadows and we want to integrate them together because that's what makes the texture and the depth of us. We have fears, we have things that we have to wrestle with, but we also get to overcome them and we also get to be stronger in our own convictions in ourselves. And that's what makes us this beautiful human and this beautiful essence of like being able to relate to each other, understanding what it is to go through all of this. But really, it's also finding that intuitive guidance and allowing that intuitive guidance to come in. And once we get to this place where we know how to have these conversations with these pieces of ourselves, this channel, which I've talked about in previous videos before, but this channel of insight gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And it's not that it's one that the channel gets bigger, but it's also that you're tuned to that channel. It's like we use this language in everyday common phrases. We used to watch TV that had channels, which was one topic, one line of entertainment media that we could go to. We have YouTube channels. It's the same thing. There are people that you go to because it's a specific thing. When you open up your own channel to the divine, you're having a very clear conversation or you're having a very straightforward conversation with just the divine. And you're allowing that to give you the fuel and the energy to keep moving through the things that you want to move through. And the more we practice that and the more we allow ourselves to follow those, especially for just the fun stuff, we allow ourselves to follow that, then we're allowing more and more of that to come in. We're saying to the universe, we're saying to our intuition, we're saying to whoever we connect to, is that we want more of this. We want to be able to connect more. I want to be able to leverage this in every decision that I make. And I'm always making decisions that are in my best, for my best good. The meals that I eat, the places that I put myself, the content that I put in front of me, everything that I'm doing, it's always just to keep me in that alignment because that's really going to be the best experience here. If I want to have the best life, if I want to be my happiest, if I want to be my most everything, it's going to start with this channel. It's going to start with you listening to really what my body's telling me, what my insights are telling me, because your body's never going to lie to you. And so if we can keep allowing ourselves to say yes and say yes to that and say yes to that, and whatever the outcome is, we're going to learn and we're going to grow from it. We're going to build experiences. We're going to be in more alignment so that we're really changing our cycles, we're changing our life, and we're really designing it the way that we want. So, thank you all for being here. I love you all. Let me know in the comments if there's any thoughts that inspired you or anything that strikes your mind as you follow your own intuition. And I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Bye.